Okay, so the Maldives, right? Like, who hasn't seen those photos?
Yeah.
That crazy blue water, those overwater bungalows, it's like instant paradise, you know?
It's the dream, isn't it?
But then you start actually thinking about going, and it gets kind of complicated.
Right.
So many resorts, islands you can't even pronounce,
Yeah.
seaplanes. It's a lot to figure out.
Definitely a lot to consider.
And that's what we're doing today. Basically, think of this as your like insider guide to actually planning a Maldives trip, whether you're going all out luxury or keeping it budget friendly.
Exactly. We're diving deep into some really good YouTube channels here. Living the Globe,
Hmm.
Joel and Amelia, and Angelica and Aileen Wanders.
They've all been there, experienced it firsthand, and we've kind of pulled out the most important stuff you need to know to plan your trip.
Yeah, we're cutting through the noise, giving you the essentials.
By the end of this deep dive, you should feel like, okay, I got this. I can plan my Maldives trip.
Confident and ready to go.
So let's break it down, starting with the basics. The Maldives, it's not just one island, right?
No, not at all. It's a whole chain of islands, what they call an archipelago.
Archipelago, fancy word.
Yeah, and they're grouped into these ring-shaped coral reefs called atolls.
Okay, so like clusters of islands.
Exactly, each with a lagoon in the middle. And there are over 100 private resort islands alone.
Wow, that many.
Yeah, and then on top of that, you have guest houses and hotels on what they call local islands.
So two kinds of islands, resort and local. That seems important.
Super important, yeah. That distinction is key to understanding how the whole Maldives tourism thing works. And it's still evolving, you know.
How so?
Well, new resorts are popping up all the time, some even on man-made islands.
Whoa, artificial islands.
Yeah, so the landscape is always changing, which is pretty exciting.
Okay, so you've booked your flight, you land in Malé, the capital. What then?
Here's the thing people miss when they see those perfect pictures. You don't just hop in a cab from the airport.
Oh, so there's more travel involved.
Almost always. To get to your resort or your guest house, you're going to need either a seaplane or a speedboat.
Makes sense. All those islands.
Right, but it's a cost people often forget about. Those transfers can be as expensive as your international flight.
Seriously?
No joke. So factor that into your budget early on.
Okay, so you're in Malé, ready for that seaplane or speedboat. How do you choose your island?
This is where your personal interests come in, especially if you're going the resort route.
What do you mean?
Well, say you're dying to swim with tiger sharks. You'll need to look at resorts in the far south atolls.
Ah, so location matters for specific activity.
Big time. Whale sharks. South Ari Atoll is the spot for that.
So knowing what you want to do helps narrow down the islands.
Exactly. It also affects those transfer costs and times we talked about.
Makes sense. If you want a short, cheap transfer, stick close to Malé.
Exactly. Some resorts even offer free boat transfers, which is a huge bonus.
Something to watch for when you're comparing places.
For sure. But some resorts, especially the more remote ones, they make you book their seaplane. And that can get pricey.
We'll get into those details later, but there's another option, right? Local islands.
Yes. This is a game changer for budget travelers.
Tell me more.
Since 2009, the Maldives has been opening up tourism on local islands. So you get the same beautiful beaches and water, but way cheaper.
So it's not just resorts anymore.
Right. Two different experiences, both amazing in their own way.
But how do you get to these local islands?
Well, resorts are all about private boats, but for local islands, you've got options.
Options are good.
Public ferries are super cheap,
How cheap are we talking?
like a couple of dollars for a trip,
Wow, that is cheap.
but they can be slow. Or you can take public speedboats.
So faster but more expensive than the ferry.
Yeah, but still way less than a private resort transfer.
Yeah.
Like a speedboat to an island in Atoll might be around $25 and take 30 minutes.
Not bad.
Compared to the ferry, same destination, $1.50, but it'll take you 2 hours.
Okay, trade-off between time and money. Got it. But where do you actually stay on these local islands?
They've got guest houses and smaller hotels.
So no fancy overwater bungalows.
Not usually, but the prices are awesome. Like Thulisdu has places for under $40 a night.
That's amazing.
Digura, great for whale sharks, might be a bit more, maybe around $75.
Still way less than a resort. Okay, so we've got resorts and local islands. What if we focus on the resort experience for a bit? Any tips for getting the most bang for your buck there?
Definitely. For honeymooners or anyone celebrating a special occasion, many resorts have free honeymoon packages.
Free stuff. I'm listening.
Yeah, things like champagne, fruit platters, maybe even a cake or a couple's massage.
Yeah, that's romantic.
Usually it's for couples married within the last year and you need your marriage certificate. Lux South Ari Atoll is known for having a pretty good one.
Good to know. Okay, let's talk about those overwater bungalows. Everyone dreams of staying in one. Are there things to consider there too?
Oh yeah, definitely. First off, not all of them have their own private pools.
What? That's like the whole point.
Some do, some don't. You got to check. And then there's which way your villa faces.
How does that matter?
Sunrise versus sunset views. It affects how much sun you get on your deck.
Ah, so sunrise is more sunbather friendly.
Pretty much. Sunsets are beautiful, obviously, but it can get hot.
So if you want more shade, maybe go for a sunset view.
Right, but honestly, the sunsets are incredible from almost anywhere on a resort.
Good to know. Now, what about the water itself? Like, how's the snorkeling right off your villa?
Well, some resorts, like Lux again, have super clear water, perfect for seeing stuff swim by.
That sounds amazing.
But if you want lots of fish and coral, you might want a resort with reefs closer to shore.
More biodiversity.
Right. So it depends what you're looking for.
Makes sense. And privacy, is it really as private as it looks in the pictures?
Usually, yeah.
Hmm.
You've got walls or dividers, and you're looking out at the ocean.
Sounds pretty secluded.
It is. But you might get the occasional snorkeler swimming past your villa.
Oh, right. They have those ladders right into the water.
Exactly. So it's private, but not like you're on a deserted island.
Okay, fair enough. What about the size of the resort island itself? Does that matter?
It can, yeah. Bigger resorts mean more walking, maybe even needing a bike to get around.
Okay, like a little island town?
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
But they'll have more restaurants, activities, all that stuff. Smaller resorts are easier to navigate on foot.
More intimate.
Yeah, exactly. But interestingly, both big and small resorts can feel pretty uncrowded.
How is that possible?
I think it's the way they're designed, spread out, lots of privacy.
So it comes down to personal preference again.
Big and bustling or small and cozy. Up to you.
Okay, so we've covered the islands themselves. Now let's talk transfers. This seems crucial to planning the whole trip.
Absolutely. It's not just about getting there. It's a whole experience in itself.
Right, and it can get expensive, we know that.
So let's start with seaplanes, the iconic way to get to those far-off resorts. There are three main companies, Trans-Maldivian Air, Maldivian, and Manta Air.
And which one you get depends on the resort.
Yeah, they have deals with specific resorts.
Okay, so it's not like booking a regular flight.
No, the resort arranges it for you when you book your stay.
Makes it easy, I guess. But what about the timing? Do you know when you're flying right away?
Not always. Confirmations can come really late, like the night before you leave.
Oh, so a little stressful.
Definitely makes it hard to plan the rest of your day.
What about luggage? Are those seaplanes strict about that?
Yeah, you usually get one checked bag, 20 kilos, and a small carry-on, 5 kilos.
Okay, so pack light.
Any extra, and they'll charge you around $5 per kilo.
Good to know. Any time restrictions on these seaplanes?
Big one. They only fly during daylight, 6 a.m. to 4 p.m.
So if your flight arrives late, you're stuck in the plane.
Same if you have a early flight out. Plan for that.
Okay, another thing to factor in. And even if your flight's on time, the transfer might not be easy.
Right. You might end up waiting a while in the seaplane. Some resorts have ground. Yeah, definitely check that. You can request a specific transfer time, but it's not guaranteed.
So flexibility is key here.
Definitely. And remember, seaplanes can make multiple stops, so even if your resort seems close, it might take a while.
Good point. Okay, enough about seaplanes. Let's talk speedboats.
So for resorts closer to Malay, they'll usually arrange a private speedboat for you. Easy peasy.
And for local islands,
Public speedboats are the way to go. Much cheaper than what the resorts charge.
do you have any examples?
Yeah, like getting to South Ari Atoll, about $55 in under 2 hours.
Not bad at all.
Here's a cool tip. If you're on a local island and want to visit a resort, try hiring a private speedboat from there.
So bypassing the resort's own transfer.
Exactly. It can be way cheaper, like going from Digura to Centaur Grand. Local speedboat is a fraction of the resort price.
Nice hack. So always shop around for those transfers. And then we have the ultimate budget option, ferries.
Right. Those public ferries are super affordable, like we said, $1.50 for that LH Atoll trip.
But slow and steady wins the race, right?
Exactly. If you've got time and want to save money, ferries are a great way to experience local life.
Okay, so we've tackled transfers. Now let's talk about another big one. Food and drinks. I hear the Maldives can be pricey, especially at those resorts.
Yeah, that's true. Resorts usually offer different meal plans like bed and breakfast, half board, full board, and all-inclusive.
So many options.
Yeah, all-inclusive seems tempting, but if you don't drink much, it's not always the best deal.
How come?
because sometimes it's $100 more per night than just full board.
Wow, that adds up.
So unless you're going to be downing cocktails all day, maybe skip the all-inclusive.
Good point. Any other tips for avoiding those big restaurant bills?
Ask the resort for their menus beforehand.
Smart.
That way you can see the prices and decide if you want to go a la carte instead of a full meal plan.
Especially if you're not a big eater.
Right, or if you're planning to do excursions during meal times.
Yeah, makes sense. But still, I've heard stories about $30 burgers and stuff.
You'll find those, but there are also reasonable options. Like at Luxouth Arie Atoll, they had a tuna steak for $29. Similar prices for other main courses.
Not too bad.
But don't forget the plus plus
What's that?
is the tax and service charge, usually over 20%. So factor that into your budget too.
Ugh, those hidden fees. Okay, what about food on the local islands? Is that where the budget travelers win?
Absolutely. Local food is super cheap. You can get delicious Maldivian dishes, lots of tuna, for $3 to $5.
That's more like it.
Western food is pricier, but many guest houses include breakfast in the price.
Another bonus. But what about alcohol? Isn't the Maldives a Muslim country?
It is, so alcohol is restricted on local islands.
No cocktails on the beach.
Not really. You can go on booze boats or take the day trip to a resort that serves it.
So there are ways around it, but something to be aware of.
Definitely. If a drink is a must-have for your vacation, factor that into your planning.
Okay, so besides lounging on beautiful beaches, what about activities? Where do you find the best value for your money?
Generally, resorts are way more expensive for excursions.
So local islands are the way to go for that?
Absolutely. They've got local tour operators who offer the same stuff, but way cheaper.
Any examples?
Dolphin cruises for $25, whale shark tours for $70, especially if you're on Dagura, they see prices between resorts and local operators. You'll be surprised at the difference.
Okay, let's talk budgeting overall. We know resorts are expensive, local islands are cheaper. Any other tips for saving money?
Well, first off, remember, both resorts and local islands have that incredible Maldivian beauty. You're not missing out on that.
It's the same ocean, right?
Exactly. Now, for saving money on flights, try booking through Singapore or Kuala Lumpur. Those connections are often cheaper.
Good tip.
And consider traveling during shoulder season, like just before or after peak times. You get better prices and fewer crowds.
Smart.
Mafushi Island is a great budget base, lots of cheap guest houses, and tons of tour operators.
I've heard that name before.
And if you want a taste of that resort life, book just one night instead of a whole week.
So you can say you've done it.
Right. Or do day trips to resorts. Use their facilities without paying for the room.
I like it. Any other hacks?
Take those local ferries, eat at local restaurants, and book your activities locally. It all adds up.
It's all about those little savings.
Right. And remember, wet season, May to November, can be cheaper, but you might get some rain.
Worth the risk for those discounts.
Maybe. The rain's often short-lived, and you can still enjoy the sunshine.
So you got to weigh your priorities. Do you have an idea of what a budget trip might cost?
Our sources had some good examples. One couple did a 14-day trip for under $1,900 for both of them.
No way. That includes everything.
Everything. Activities, transfers, food, the works.
That's incredible.
And another person did 6 days for $96 per day.
Wow.
You don't need to be a millionaire.
Okay, any other things people should know before going, like etiquette or things to watch out for?
Yeah, a few things. Drones, first of all. You can bring them, but resorts might have rules.
Oh, right. Makes sense.
And absolutely no flying over private villas. That's a big no-no.
Respect people's privacy.
Also, be super careful around seaplanes. They fly low, so have a spotter when you're flying your drone.
Safety first.
When you're choosing a resort, check if it's adult-only or family-friendly. Big difference in the vibe.
Yeah, good point. What about local islands? Any cultural tips?
Dress respectfully on the local islands, but many have designated bikini beaches, so you can wear your swimwear there.
Okay, good to know. And payments? Cash or card?
Cards are fine in bigger places, but carry cash for local cafes and shops. USD is best.
So plan ahead for that.
Another thing, whale shark tours can get crowded, especially in high season. Be prepared for that.
Everyone wants to see those gentle giants.
Right. And finally, let's not forget about climate change. Those rising sea levels are a real threat to the Maldives.
It's a fragile paradise. Okay, so wrapping it all up, it sounds like the Maldives is way more diverse than people think. Luxury resorts, budget adventures, it's all there.
Absolutely. It comes down to knowing your priorities and planning carefully. Transfers are key, resorts versus local islands, and of course, your budget.
It's all about making informed choices.
Right. So now that you've heard all this, what part of the Maldives grabs you the most? Is it the beauty, the luxury, the adventure? What piques your interest enough to do a little more digging?
Yeah, what sparks that wanderlust?
Because figuring that out is the first step to finding your own perfect Maldivian escape.
And who knows, maybe we'll bump into you there someday.
Wouldn't that be something?